It's a great pleasure to introduce Bjoern Eskofier, and he currently directs the Institute of AI and Medicine at Ludwig Maximilian University Munich, better known as LMU. At least I did know it as LMU. Before September 2025, he was in FAU, which is the Friedrich Alexander University of Erlangen Nuremberg. And the title we spoke today is AI for Future Healthcare. Bjoern.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. Yeah, I know the talk title is really broad, but what I bring you today is what I'm focused in on methodology that's using time series data and machine learning and signal processing. We use multimodal data analytics to address healthcare problems. And that's really what my group and I are motivated by, finding clinical or healthcare needs, addressing them, and using the right kind of methodology to actually...
Can I ask you to put on the camera for the online audience? Sorry.
My own? Yep.
Yeah, I see that now that it's not on.
Absolutely. Let me turn this maybe a bit.
Say.
Yeah, that's fine. So now people can see me a little bit.
Yeah.
Fine. Right.
Thank you.
To address clinical needs. And the kind of toolbox that we draw from is data creation. So that's everything, wearables, ambient monitoring, using health apps or whatever to get data about healthcare processes. B, building models that use these data in order to, as I said, address the real clinical needs. And three, and maybe also doing the right translational steps in order to bring technology into the hands of medical experts or patients. That's what we're driven by, and that's what I want to bring you today. I have a lot of slides. I also brought you a couple of projects from the past. They're fun, so please bear with me. I will rush through that and not spend a lot of time on every individual slide, but you please do interrupt me or ask me about anything that you would like to know more about later. So this is all centered on, since I began my research career, individuals. So I want to bring technology to people or individuals to make them live longer, healthier, happier, maybe also less injury prone, and maybe also more ambitious in their sports. So we will see a few examples of that as we go along. So this worked a second ago, but it doesn't anymore. Focus. So this is what the world of AI and medicine looks like currently. So you see numbers from PubMed. That's first the most important database about anything that does something in medicine. From the keywords machine learning in red and artificial intelligence in blue. So when you see that, you might think that AI now solves all existing problems in medicine and healthcare. If you just look at the last couple of years, the last 5 years, there were 250,000 articles written with something that contained AI or ML in medicine. Now, the thing is that a lot of these articles are actually not addressing real clinical needs or healthcare needs, because about only 5% of them end up in something that is a product that people can actually use in healthcare. And we've reviewed that. You can look this up. This were, of course, not 250,000 articles, but about 250. But this problem is ubiquitous. So not enough of our innovation that ends up in papers ends up in real clinical processes.
The camera's gone away.
What? Sorry?
The camera is gone away.
The camera has gone away. Yeah, technology. Challenging. It's back. Okay. You might also think that medicine is doing a good job if you look at data like this. So this is all-cause mortality taken from the United States for the last approximately 100 years. This publication has not been updated yet. You see a spike here. That's the Spanish flu. You might see another spike here soon when the next update of this publication comes for the last pandemic that we had. So mortality rates are decreasing in the North American population. Same is true in Europe and other world regions. But if you actually look at it a little bit closer, then a lot of this mortality reduction is actually coming from infectious disease causes. So where you have a clear cause-effect relationship, you can give a medication and people are doing better. If you deduct the two, you have the non-infectious disease causes like musculoskeletal disorders, neurologic disorders, other non-communicable diseases. And here you see that over the last 100 years, where we have data, from the United States, basically, there is not a lot of improvement in reducing mortality rates. And why is that? Because medicine is a very complex problem. I have this is a very simple problem. Yesterday, I talked to orthopedics, I talked to neurologists, and I talked to musculoskeletal experts, and they all three gave me different opinions of what I should do next. So that's the current state where we are in a very simple thing like this wrist injury. And now if you think about Parkinson's disease, if you think about Alzheimer's, if you think about other non-infectious but neurological diseases, things are getting more and more complex. So what can we do here? We need better data about what these people are actually suffering from, what they are different from each other, and how we can actually make them better. And another good example is here. This is taken from Eric Toppel's book. A lot of you might know Eric Toppel. If you haven't seen this book, read it. Just skip over the whole part about deep learning. It's a little bit outdated and a little bit ancient, but he's an expert, a top expert on the planet that writes from the perspective of a physician about how data and AI methods can help medicine, real world medicine. And the second part of the book that is not on deep learning is, I think, the book is from 2017 or 18. I still think very true on how you could help with data analytics methods in real world medicine. This is a picture that I like to show from this book. So these are the 10 most sold blockbuster drugs in the United States. And the amount of times that these blockbuster drugs, this picture here represents billions of dollars of healthcare spendings, and you know that the US is the most important, the most expensive healthcare system in the world. How often these medications work as intended in the target population. And it's not the dark gray people where it works as intended, it's the light gray people. So this graph or simple picture stands for about 73% of medication that somebody buys that goes away without any effect in the target population. And why is that? We don't know. Very often, we don't have a feedback information about did the individual actually not take the medication? Did he or she buy it and it ended up in a cupboard? Or is it not fit for the individual? We don't have this kind of feedback mechanism when stuff works and when it doesn't. So what we need and what I and many other people in this space, also you guys, contribute to is a connected healthcare system where people have information that comes from different sources, like the classical sources of information in medicine, which you might assume is medical imaging or some kind of lab diagnostics. But it's also all those cool gadgets that we are currently researching, like, for example, the ECG from the earables, or these other wearable devices, all these ambient sensors that tell us a lot about human health. And taken together, this could form an Internet of Health things that is paying towards more data in order to make more individuals healthy in the future. So I always call this a paradigm shift from experience-based medicine, where people, medical experts, looked at certain individuals over their lifetime, a few, going from there to evidence-based medicine, where we now have population trials, seeing a lot more individuals, but certainly not all of them, towards a really data-driven kind of medicine, where we might see the whole picture. And this is, of course, really sketchy, but we can see the emerging things that happen when we look at complete data spaces. And that's something that I'm currently driven by. And I know this is really sketchy, but I give you a few concrete, tangible things, what we contribute to this in a second. So first of all, the medical data silo problem is identified very often. So there's a lot of literature showing that data silos are, for example, undermining drug development and especially failing rare disease patients, because we don't have a lot of data about them, especially in real healthcare systems. And then also data linkage is a problem. We cannot find out individuals in all those different data assets, and therefore we need better methods for linking the data. And one of the methods that I'm interested in, and I can't talk a lot about that, but it's maybe an interesting one for you as well, is federated learning. So in federated learning, lots of you know that we don't bring the algorithms to the data, but we do it the other way around. We don't bring the data together to work on algorithms on those data lakes, but we bring algorithms to the data, to the distributed data sets. And we've published a lot on that, but I'm going to show you how these Internet of Health things and these federated data spaces might work together in future. Because you might think about the European Union, whatever you like, but they do one really interesting thing. They currently build those health data spaces. You might have heard about the European health data space. That is something that is currently created in the European Union. And I find it very interesting because that means that in future, every European citizen, I guess, sorry for the UK, but doesn't matter. You have the UK Biobank. That's already a very important resource for research. But in future, every European citizen will have an electronic health record that is linkable all across Europe. And in the beginning, this will be a really simple thing. So a standardized and consolidated health record that individuals can access. Now, this is a very interesting thing for research as well, because you might think about now with LLMs, how can people actually query their electronic health record? Think about people that are elderly, that, like my father, go to the medical expert. They get a medical diagnostics and they don't know what to do with it. They have no understanding of what this means. So now they have it in their electronic health record. They can use an LLM and actually chat with their electronic health record. So what does this mean? How does my disease progress? What do I have to do to counter it? Very interesting possibilities from this standardized and consolidated health record that could be an operating system for healthcare, at least in Europe, of the future. The second thing, and this is original picture from the European Union, but you might interpret it in different ways, is that health professionals can actually also query those data and large data sets and compare individuals that already were at a certain point in their disease trajectory and compare them with others that are now at an earlier point of this disease trajectory. So very important and very interesting possibilities with this primary access to health data that is possible through these large data spaces. And I think for me, the most interesting possibility is to actually use those data for research purposes. And I was one of the experts that helped the European Commission draft the law for making this European data space at least a law. Now it needs to be implemented, but it was really cool to see that the lawmakers were actually really thinking about how can European and in general worldwide researchers benefit from these data in future. So this is really cool, and I think opens up a lot of research possibilities also for you guys in the future. So we did not only think about lawmaking, but how to actually implement federated technology on this upcoming European health data space. There was one funding that we used in Germany for this. That was the Gaia X funding. So Gaia X, sorry, Gaia. But there's this Gaia X idea about the European data spaces where we have this Amazon Web Services for Europe. Basically, it's not really lifting off, but doesn't matter. We are researchers. We took the funding and did hopefully interesting things with that. We implemented federated learning architecture based on these distributed data sets. Now we are using the federated learning on data sets that are distributed probably to the maximum extent at the hands of every European citizen. So we wanted to directly tap into those distributed electronic health records. Team X is an abbreviation for Trusted Ecosystem of Applied Medical Data Exchange. And we showed that, first of all, we can build these solutions where individuals are using their, for example, smartphones as a central gateway into a health data space where all these medically relevant information can be put into. So we work with a couple of university hospitals that are in our consortium on the right side, and also Siemens Healthineers, for example, that provided medical images, and all of them were consolidated in this electronic personal health data space. And we showed that these electronic health data spaces are linkable. So we can actually use them for example, federated learning purposes. So if you want to know more about this is written in this publication. And we showed also that this idea of a federated data space is fully compatible with this idea of the European health data space. So in future, this might be a possibility that we not only learn from data lakes, but from this idea of distributed electronic health records of the European population or of the whatever population. This is a paper that I found personally quite cool from one of my PhD students who worked on something that I typically don't work on. He was interested in differentiable privacy. And he published a paper showing that these distributed datasets can actually also use for federated learning without giving away private information. So he wrote a paper on estimating group means. So this is the first step for machine learning under local differential privacy for these distributed datasets that might be European health databases. So again, one of the research directions that we do, and I'm just contributing to how can we use data that are in future maybe distributed in these data spaces. This is a project that I would like to highlight because we are, again, actually implementing federated learning solutions. A lot of people write about federated learning, but the implementation is lacking. So this is the diabetes project. Please note that this is written DAI-betes. So we are leveraging AI methods on large data sets for the outcome prediction of type 2 diabetes. But the really exciting thing is that we do it in a distributed way over, in this case, university hospitals. So the data providers are not individual citizens. That's really the maximum extent, but individual university hospitals. And what we do here is we bring data together, not in the typical way where we have a centralized data warehouse or data lake and then do some statistical analysis or machine learning to generate hypothesis or prediction algorithms. But we actually implement in this European project, 12 million euro, 5 years, a blockchain-like structure where we can access data and the data access is ledgered. So we know exactly who used which data asset when from our different data providers, which are 6 university hospitals. One of them is in Italy, Sapienza. One of them is in Vienna. One of them is in Sweden, Karolinska. And 2 of them are in the United States. So in Boston, Joslin Diabetes Center and Brigham and Women's University Hospital. And those are even outside the European data umbrella, so data protection umbrella. So we can even tap into data assets that are non-European, that are outside a European data space. So what we are currently doing, we are in the beginning of the 3rd year of the project, is to actually tap into the databases. So the first 2 years of the project, we implemented this. So this is the query response system, basically. So we have the clinical side. In the clinical side, we have our diabetes client software running. So this client software interfaces at the clinical side with the data assets that they have there. Data is never leaving the hospital. The clients make sure that every data access ledger, so we know exactly what I said already, who accessed which data asset when and how it was used for learning. We have a software that's called Feature Cloud. So with this Feature Cloud, we're extracting features from the data, obviously, feed it into something that in the grant was called a virtual twin model. So our clinical experts are still using this. This is a bit of a fancy word for the different algorithms that we train and use distributed via those clients that are running in the individual university hospitals to learn from the data. And this is completely scalable. So in future, if any other university hospital might want to join in, might want to bring in their data sources into, for example, learning for diabetes, we can just add another local site into our coordinator node and then learn from more data. And the idea of the project now, leaving the whole federated stuff, again, focusing on the promise that we made to the European Union, is that every one of these university hospitals has roughly about 30,000 individual patient data sets. And if you throw them together from the 6, we have round about 200,000 data sets. And the promise is that with more data, we can do better predictions. And in future, we want to even, as I said, add more local sites and then see whether we can get to higher plateaus for the prediction. There's a lot of challenges in this project. For example, Joslin stores data completely different from Brigham Women's, from the same country, and completely different from Sapienza. And that means there's also a lot of challenges in translating between data assets. So we're using LLMs, large language models, in order to translate between data assets of those individual local sites. That's another side problem that we have in this project, which I think is very interesting and addressable by AI solutions. This is German, sorry for that. That's a bit of a different topic. We're working also in supporting clinical trials with AI methods. And this is from a German white paper that I co-wrote on developing pharmaceuticals supported by AI. Now, this is actually only available in Germany, and you shouldn't be able to read this. But all these individual entries here are possibilities for individual AI solutions to support pharmaceutical trials. And we work on a couple of them. I'm just highlighting one of them, where we use synthetic data in order to make more, that's the idea, clinical studies successful. Because in clinical studies, you have the problem that if you have too many dropouts, the whole clinical study is invalid. And dropouts happen especially often in the control arm of the study. So imagine you're getting on a new kind of medication for whatever anti-cancer treatment, and you realize you're in the placebo, aka control group, and then you might not be motivated to participate in the study anymore. This happens quite often. This was a very sketchy example, but this is what happens. What we do is with a collaboration with Novartis to tap into the databases that they have for all the clinical trials that they ever did. And they have a lot of clinical trials and they have a lot of control arms that they already investigated. And if you put the control arms together in a clever way, you can make predictions about dropouts in new studies. Like an LLM is predicting the next token, you predict the next data point in an individual's trajectory going through the clinical trial. Now, this is far away from being regulatorily approved. It's a fight against the authorities, but we think that we can, at some point in the future, convince authorities that this is a way to go to make more clinical studies valid, because we see that our predictions are actually quite close to what's happening for the real patient. This is called digital twins in clinical research project, and there's a lot of appearances also in not only academic press, but also in media with this project. The PhD student that's working on that is Tatjana. She has, for example, contributed a paper to the AI in Medicine conference that I would like to highlight. I've visited it last year for the first time, AI ME. It's happening this year in Ottawa. I'm running the doctoral school there, so if you're interested and Cecilia can pay for it, then visit us in Ottawa. But I would really recommend to put the conference on your spotlight. It's a really cool community. As I said, I only learned from it about it last year, but I really like the community. I think a lot of the things that we do fits in there with them. This is just another project that I want to highlight by Fatemeh Salehi, who is working on the same kind of ideas using digitally twinned data sets. In this case, for the prediction of rheumatoid arthritis outcomes. And what I found interesting in her work is that with a very simple machine learning model, so I think we know this, it's not always the most elaborate transformer-based attention mechanism that needs to be employed. She actually employed quite simple linear regression techniques for the survival risk analysis in rheumatoid arthritis, and it worked really well. So this is something that I took away as a learning again for her project. She did all the comparisons with elaborate and very modern 2026 machine learning technologies, but this is actually not what you need when you have larger data sets that again are taken from these clinical study digital twins. If you're interested in large data sets, check out the TEF Health website. It has a lot of now interesting data assets that are, however, a little bit hidden. So it's not like UCI Machine Learning Repository or Mimic or UK Biobank, which is quite open and visible. But this is a really large European project that's also available for people in the UK and China and wherever on the planet. It's running since the beginning of 2023, funded with 30 million by the European Union. There's another contribution by in-kind by companies, pharmaceutical companies, healthcare companies. And the idea of TEF Health in a nutshell, you can learn more about our role there with this link, is to bring together data sets that are relevant in healthcare and make them publicly available, sometimes with AI solutions already implemented on top of them. We are a tiny little bit of this consortium, actually still with my FAU role, but there is tons of data assets on the website that you can find if you look at it, look through it a little bit. So it might be an interesting resource for me. Yeah, I promised to also tell you a little bit about data creation. So this was a lot about data spaces and how we can leverage those data spaces with federated learning and digital twinning. But I also would like to show you that my heart is an engineering heart. So I started as an electrical engineer and then moved into AI because frankly, the frigging hardware never worked. So I was annoyed by it, but it's still a lot of fun. So I started here. That was 2006. I was a PhD student at the time, funded by Adidas. Really nice experience working with a company that was building both consumer products. So thousands of people using stuff and generating lots of data. And then also very focused project with elite athletes. I will show you a few of them, making them better, making them more performant. Super cool. So this was our like overview picture. We wanted to build just like I guess many of you, distributed sensors that measure something on the human body, that synchronize, communicate, that are integrated into clothes and equipment. So you know a lot of this, build mobile AI solutions on smartphones or whatever, to directly interpret the data, feed it back to the human, but also store the data on central cloud. So again, the data space idea, and then using this for telemonitoring. And one of the earliest projects that I did, I just threw the slide in again, is this one. So this is 2008. And because we talked about embedded AI with a few of you, so this was an embedded AI project from 2008. So it's a real product. This was one of the things that I worked on as a PhD student. So this thing had a microcontroller, 256 byte of RAM. So that's for those that don't know what this means. It's really little for my programming. And I had to put a machine learning system on this tiny microcontroller RAM that was capable of classifying what kind of surface a runner is running on, what kind of fatigue state the runner is in, and whether whether the runner is running fast or slow, or what the approximate speed level of the runner is. Because the system, the shoe had, you might have seen it here, a system in the back of the shoe that could change the stiffness setting. So here you see X-ray of the shoe. We did this with our local collaboration with Siemens Healthineers, and this cable system can be tightened by a motor inside the shoe, all run by a 3-volt micro battery that tightens or loosens this cable string, and then this damping element can use more compression or less compression. And the idea is, for example, when you start running here in front of the university, you're on hard ground, you're physically fit. So the shoe allows a lot of compression because you can basically do the rest with your biomechanical system. However, when Cecilia was running for 1.5 hours, and 2.5 hours, and she's exhausted, and she's then running on the soft walkways outside on the nice pastures surrounding the university, then you have less compression by the shoe because the ground is already giving you damping. And when you're physically fatigued, it's a good idea to let the shoe do less compression because you might not be able to react to changes as fast as before and therefore tear a ligament, for example. And if you're on the hard surface, a lot of compression protects structures like, for example, the knee. So that's the idea. So there was a lot of data collection going on with a lot of people teasing out how to interpret the data from actually the magnetic sensor that was inside the shoe, and then finding machine learning solutions that were, as I said, programmable on this tiny microcontroller. And at that time, I didn't call it embedded AI, I called it embedded classification. So you see, that's the past. Sorry, I talked about this a long time, but there were other projects with Adidas, like for example, this came later. And I was talking to Gaia earlier about how you need to find a need of your customer that you want to address. And in Germany, a lot of customers of Adidas are, of course, soccer people. So we did research in a German-funded project on how to generate a lot of data from real sports situations like this here, dribbling and shooting and whatever else you do in soccer. So this was a 3-year research project. And then pretty much by coincidence, we analyzed the data and did a lot of machine learning, blah, blah, blah. And then by coincidence, Adidas came up in a collaboration and now it should come, to start the Techers Tech project. And that was a project connected to the Olympics. So Tekka's Tech had the idea of you put on a simple sensor, a shin-based sensor, that detects when people out there on a soccer pitch are doing interesting things, and those people are at the same time filmed by some hero camera. And then when you do something super cool in the real movement, this is automatically extracted by from the camera feed. That was a time when we couldn't do computer vision at the scale which we do right now. Now the so to say video feed is partitioned by the IMU information that we have. And then, and that's the need that we fulfilled, and a lot of people use this, you get directly your coolest moves and can upload them to Facebook. That was a time when Facebook was still cool. So something where we did actually analyze the MU signals and made a lot of people happy with video feeds. Now, of course, you can also directly work on video feeds. So this is something that we did with Olympic athletes. This is, again, very early, 2014. We used a particle filter. So this is pre-YOLO times, but it worked. It turns out that international beach volleyball events and a lot of other sports events at a very high international level are pretty well standardized. So there were thousands of videos of Germany, in this case, Germany playing Brazil, playing Italy, playing China, wherever else you're from. And of course, when you have these videos, you have a lot of data, when you have the right kinds of analysis mechanisms. So we worked with the national team of Germany at that time. We analyzed, as you saw here from the particle filter video, the position of the players and the position of the ball at each point in the game. And when you have the data, beach volleyball is very simple at the end of the day. There is one attacker, typically one blocker, and one defender on the field. And the attacker can either lob the ball over the defender and try to put the ball into one of the empty corners, or shoot in the direction of the attacker of the other defender that is free, and maybe score a point. And we kind of did this in a data-driven way. So the first machine learning system found the position of the players, and then the second data analytics system automatically found out when you're Germany and playing against China. Sorry, China, no China bashing here, or UK or whoever. What is the probability of scoring a point when you're in this situation, just on a data-driven from a data-driven point of view? And we used this in the 2012 and 2016 Olympics. So Germany won gold in both Olympics. And well, this is not a proof, but I was quite happy to sit there in the stadium and watch the players. And we published it in 2014, and a lot of the advantage disappeared. So once this was published, other teams took it up and did the same kind of analysis. Really, really cool. So really interesting how this is also taken up into the international world of sports. Who knows what this is? This is surfing. This is the world record of the highest wave ever surfed by a human. This is Nazaré, the coast of Portugal. And you now see a 28-meter wave and a human in it. This is Sebastian Steutner surfing this wave. And at some point, the wave crashes. It's a 50-second video. Bear with me. Ah, come on, crash wave. I should cut this video. But then the cliffhanger is even better. So what do you think has this to do with my research? So you just watched the Guinness World Record. Sebastian is famous for this. So what does this have to do with my research? Well, Sebastian was 1.5 years prior to this research in my office. That's Sebastian. That's the same guy that was in the wave. And we did something that I would also recommend you looking at. Probably a lot of you do this already, but we linked biomechanical simulation with the actual signals that we can measure off of the human. Sebastian, we observed with camera methods. We also put sensors not on him, but on the surfboard. And we modeled this together in a simulation environment. And this allowed us to predict what Sebastian is actually capable of doing in the wave. So we know exactly, this is physical properties, what the wave produces in terms of forces and in terms of speed. And we could predict, Sebastian, if you're in this 28-meter wave, you have this amount of force that your body can create. This is no problem. We could actually do a simulation showing that he can survive a 70-meter wave. Of course, there's no one on the planet, so we're still looking for waves like that on Venus or wherever. But it was part of the process of giving Sebastian the feeling that this is, from a biomechanical perspective, not a problem, because he was already in silico standing in this way. So very cool projects supported by Siemens Healthineers. And I think something that just should motivate that this linking of biomechanical simulation. Think of OpenSim, Stanford project that Scott Delp is leading, is very often helpful when you connect it to, for example, measure data from video cameras or IMU data. We have a very cool paper by Marlies Nitschke linking simulated IMU sensors with biomechanical simulation. I can send you everything, of course, later. I know that a lot of you are connected to startup ideas, and I would like to show you one of mine. And I discussed with a few of you that you need to have a long runway. So I show you a project that started in 2010 and is now a company that is still struggling, still surviving, still every time, every day feels like close to going bankrupt. But I still have my heart in it. So we started in 2010 to measure movement of Parkinson's patients. Just a coincidence. I met a neurologist that was interested in measuring with IMU's Parkinson's patients. And we started to measure with the Shimmer system. Some of you might still know it. Cecilia knows it still. Bit ancient, but doesn't matter. So in the meantime, we have our own medical grade sensors, but it doesn't matter. So it's still the same IMU system. We measured in a structured way Parkinson's patients in the hospital. Turns out, in medical expert centers all across the world, the neurologists are doing the same kind of tests with the patients. 10-meter, 4 times 10-meter walk test, for example. It's a very simple test. So the patient is somewhere, walks 10 meters, turns around, goes back 2 times the walkway, then you have 4 times 10-meter walking. But the information that's stored away is a visual observation of the patient by the expert neurologist. And this tends to deviate from expert to expert quite substantially. So we thought about why not do this scaling that is already in questionnaires in an objective way, with measuring, with IMU sensors. And we built a lot of machine learning around this. So this was the research that we did. So this, for example, is a 4 times 10-meter walk on the sagittal plane axis gyroscope signal. This is automatically with appropriate machine learning methods extracted from the ongoing signal. Then you have stride segmentation, so each individual step of the patient is a stride. Then you have, and I saw this in one of your presentations already, so you have the typical gait signal here with the swing phase and the stance phase of the foot on the ground. And then you can come up with all kinds of machine learning based features, so gradients and durations and whatnot. But, and this is also very important, you can come up with, and I saw this also in your work, you can come up with features or parameters that clinical experts understand and trust in. And if you go clinical, this is a very important thing that I learned, that you need to create trust in the healthcare system. Otherwise, nothing moves. If people don't trust your solutions, nothing works. So we extracted automatically these toe-off, heel strike, mid-stance events, just like many of you do, and fed those information back to the medical experts in a visible screen parameter kind of dashboard. So what the clinical expert sees in his or her assessment of the patient is also reflected in this automatic assessment. So step length is increasing, step length is decreasing, whatever, they can link it to what they visually see and therefore, as I said, create more trust in it. And this now is implemented in the startup solution, the Portabilis Healthcare Technologies company. This is an older version of our medical grade sensor. In the meantime, the sensor is inside the shoe. So we're working with an orthopedics company that has a cavity in shoes, and we put the medical device sensor in it. But it's not only the sensor and it's not only the gait analysis, it's an integrated care concept. So when you see that, when we see automatically in the gait assessment that the patient is doing worse, we are reflecting this back with neurologists, teleneurologists in Germany. And if the teleneurologist says there's a problem with the patient, then a telenurse actually drives to the patient to look for him or her. And that's changing the way Parkinson's patients are treated tremendously. So we could show in a recent study, not published yet, but will soon be, that we actually reduce healthcare costs by half because less patients are falling. And falling is creating one of the worst after effects in this population. So just by controlling them data-driven better, you could say you're reducing costs and the patients feel better because they have this digital companion that is actually helping them. A lot of this research was funded in the Mobilize D project. So if you're looking for GATE data sets, we are soon releasing all the data that we collected from Mobilize D. That's 4 cohorts: Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, COPD, and hip fracture. And each of those cohorts has more than 1,000 patients. So lots of possibility for doing additional research. It will soon appear, I think, by the end of the second quarter this year on the website or somewhere through available resources. So check it out. And what you could also check out is this paper assessing real-world gait or movement with digital technology. Lots of recommendations from this consortium. The project why I'm here today is because I asked Cecilia a while ago whether she could be external examiner for a PhD thesis that I was running, supported again by a company. This is supported, the logo is missing, sorry, by WS Audiology, so one of those hearing aid companies that are in Erlangen. So Erlangen is one of the medical technology hubs in Germany. And with Anne-Christine, sorry, we are again using this biomechanical modeling, ML, DL, deep learning methods in order to come up with derive parameters from the signal that we generate from the hearables. And you've seen it, the eargate system that's openly published. We also have a couple of data sets published with it that might be coming handy for your own research. So this is about gait. We did similar projects, but I'm just highlighting them, for example, for oncology care. So this was a Bavarian project running on breast cancer patients where we used a couple of different data sets, again, in a way where we digitally bring them together, learn from the data, make the care process digitally more efficient and more less error prone. But I didn't highlight any of the results here. Another thing, because you're not that interested in it, I guess, is our Smart Start project, where we were, this is already completed, monitoring important signs of pregnancy. But once again, here we, for example, collaborated with a startup from Berlin. I don't have anything to do with them, with Kilea, but they have more than 200,000 users now. In our analysis, we used 183,000 users, female pregnant women, that reported in the app more than 1.5 million symptom reports. And I can just recommend if you have the opportunity to work with such a large scale, real world data asset, that's really cool because we came up with, I think, a really nice paper that shows the real world implications of these data for symptom courses, for example, in pregnancy, and published it in NPJ Digital Medicine. Now, on the audio aspect, we also do some audio analytics of congenital heart defects. So we're using, the electrocardiogram or electrocardiography assessment of the unborn baby's heart signals together with auscultated signals that are the standard of care currently in detecting those heart defects. And again, using machine learning in order to find prenatal problems, and then maybe at some point also transferring that into maybe healthcare ready solutions. But that's work that is currently being done and therefore not ready for presentation. So that's it. That's what I wanted to show you. Last but not least, if you're interested, any one of you, in visiting the new institute in Munich, we work on data integration, data usage, data creation, also in translating to startups and to usable solutions in the healthcare space. So I said earlier, lots of you are doing fantastic work, and at some point you might want to look up for follow-up positions, find us. I would be happy to talk to you also in future. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll take questions both in person and online. I'll read the online one if people want to put them in the chat in the meanwhile. Yeah, Adam.
I know you said it's ongoing work, so you might not be able to say much about it, but with the fetal ECG work, how are you separating the fetus and the mother's ECG?
So I was a little bit short on the explanation. So what we do is we use auscultation. That's the standard stethoscope hearing of the fetal heart activity. We use ultrasound that is available in expert centers, at least in Germany, and compare that with the electric signals that we take off of the measurement that is based on this device. So the sketch was a little bit sketchy, but this is a actual medical grade product by a North American company, a good friend of mine that created this, Julian Penders. He's a pretty well-known person also in the IEEE. That's why I'm looking at Cecilia. He created this startup a decade ago, Bloom Life. They are now evaluated with $80 million. So he's rich. But I saw him work in his garage in the very first steps. So it's all true. And we are comparing these three different signal sources in terms of prediction accuracy for the congenital heart defects. So we have in the Smart Start study, so this is funded, the Smart Start study is funded by the German Ministry of Healthcare. The target of inclusion are 1,000 female, obviously pregnant women. Sorry, push it. So the target are 1,000 pregnant women. And we expect, well, about 1%, unfortunately, of newborns have a congenital heart defect. So we expect round about 10 cases where we later see this development of the heart defect. And we are about halfway through the assessment of the study. So 500-ish patients are in, and it will probably take, so it took us a very long time to start the study. In theory, we could have the 500 patients because we work with 2 university hospitals in half a year. But in practice, we will probably look more at a year until we have the study completed, the end of the year. The study completed, then publication probably next year. But yeah, I can link you up with Katharina Jäger, who is running this study. That's her.
I have a question on your Parkinson study about the device. So I imagine you are sending the new data back to a radio interface?
Yeah.
How's the battery all that? Do people need to charge this shoe or?
Yeah, I
how does it
don't.
work?
It's now a full product. So
If you can talk about it.
yeah, totally. It's all public. You can also look it up on the website, Parkinson healthcare, Portabilis Healthcare Technologies. So what the patient gets is a what's it called? Suitcase, not suitcase, but a little suitcase, like a
Travel bag.
travel bag. So it's a little coffer, and it's about this size. So it's a hard case, and you can open it. We learned the hard way that you have to make, obviously there's a no, everything super simple for the patient. So in early iterations of the product, just to give you an anecdote, we had these clips that you saw, and you could take the sensor out, put it onto the charging station of the box, and then take it off again and put it back onto the clips. And we needed to know which was the right and the left sensor, and we color coded them green and red, and they still mix it up. So everything happens, and there were also signals that were collected that we have no explanation for what actually happened. So now the whole thing is, as I said, integrated in the shoes. The shoes have an MD. It's integrated inside the sole, so you never take, basically, if you don't have to, you could, but you don't have to take the sensor out of the shoe. You can basically put the whole shoe onto the charging station, and
They charge at
basically.
night.
They charge at night. And they also
Enough.
transfer data at night. So there's no real-time intervention.
Sorry, you're completely silent. Does that have location information in it?
Only in the sense that you know that
Because I have a very specific patient case of a wandering patient problem, and them charging the shoe is actually a really big problem.
Yeah.
Because the instrumentation in shoe and so forth is painful. I just want this might be an awesome solution, but it sounds like not quite.
we don't have information about where the sensors or the shoes are. We have information on where the box is, because the box has a SIM card in it. So it does all the transfer automatically, as I said, at night.
And it does that once you redock the shoe.
Basically, you just have to plug in. There's a cable coming from the box. You have to plug it in and put the shoes on the box for charging overnight. That's it. And people put this on. There's also the possibility for studies that we have locatable shoe sensors, but for that I don't actually know where we are currently, because we have continued this study.
Please make the shoes MagSafe charging, and please make them so they've got location data, because then you can alert the people that look after these.
I think they're pretty safe. So this is a product now on the German market. We have in the order of 70, it's not a lot, but 70 patients that are, in the longest case, over 1.5 years supported by this technology. And this early problem of charging and everything and data loss, we have completely under control, more or less. There's always cases where people put the shoes outside and then they're rain soaked and then we have to change them, but that's not a problem with the technology.
No other questions? I don't see any questions online. So given that, thank you to the speaker and thank you for being here. Oh, yes.
Oh, sorry, I've got one that brings it back. So sorry, a little bit more. I find talks like this awesome because it's got so many different things in it. At one stage, you were talking about so using LLMs to interpret other people's data sets, the combination of Carolina and some of these other institutions' data sets to bring them into a meta set, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the issues that you face using an LLM and how you gather your own trust in that LLM system to a sufficiency that you can be confident in the interpretations?
That's a matter of very intense debate in the project. So this is Jan Baumbach, that's the coordinator, he's from Hamburg, and the guy on the next slide, that's one of our lead clinical investigators, Paolo Parini from Karolinska. And so with Paolo, we have kind of these very intense discussions on how do we actually put this trust into the into the distributed data sets where we don't actually know when the thing is running, what the Karolinska versus any other data set is really containing information-wise. So we don't have actually, as I said, we're in the midst of the project. We don't have a working solution for that yet. But what we do right now is we validate these translations together with our clinical experts. So we have panels of experts that look at the data. We can open the box, so to say. So of course, theoretically, when a system like this is working later, he cannot see the data from any other university hospital because he's in Karolinska. He can't see the data from whatever, Jocelyn. But right now we have these panels of experts, so we look very carefully at what are the original data assets of Brigham Women's, how are they translated into this compound data set, and is this valid or not? And we found actually that the systems that are now in place are very often very trustworthy. That's a very general statement, I know. There's a publication currently written on that, coming probably up. I don't know, we're submitting it soonish, I guess. So maybe in half a year or so. But the projection into the future is that hopefully there will be some kind of a local client validation where you get kind of a local dashboard on original data and data for the federated or whatever learning architecture that you want to put on top of it. And then there needs also to be some kind of a dashboard information, just like a visual. Are you in the right corridor of mean values, other statistical information on the original data, on the translated data, and on the overarching data set?
Who's that aimed at?
Who's that aimed at?
Yeah, that dashboard.
That's aimed for now. It's aimed at the researchers that have to validate that. Whether this is, it's a research project, so whether this is at some point adopted in clinical care, I don't know. But at least I think we are with, for example, Feature Cloud coming up with a architecture that can be rolled out to many other disease areas where you want to bring data together in order to make, for example, federated analyses. It doesn't even need to be machine learning on top of that. So this is gonna be a product. Not necessarily for diabetes prediction. That's our guinea pig, but for, I don't know, there's so many cases where you want to do distributed analysis of cancer data, and you cannot actually bring the data together, but you want to know how many cases are in this and that distributed data set.
Okay,
Thank you for your questions.
thank you.